Hey guys, I'm JJ.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Emily.
And welcome to another episode of Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver. Jay, before we get started, we have got to remind folks about the Sisterhood membership. I mean, basically, it's like a sale every day. And the best part about the membership, it's free.
All right, girls, here is the deal. We're partnering with some of our care partners to save you money. So go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up and then tell a friend about it. They can join too. #caring is sharing.
Oh, and here's the best part. We don't sell your information. We totally hate that. So no worries. Okay. So today we are excited to have our friends, Becky and Logan, who have quite the confession. They'll be sharing the good, the bad, the ugly with respect to caregiving. We can all relate to that, especially me. And I know Emily can as well. So like all of us, Becky and Logan have been caregivers, but there's so much more. So Jay, why don't you tell everybody about these amazing people?
I don't even know where to start. Okay, so I had to do a summary, like bullet points. So I'm just going to go there before we get started. So between the two of them, we have 2 certified elite personal trainers. We have a certified health coach. We have a Boston Marathon qualifier. We have a sprint triathloner, and we have 1 self-proclaimed autoimmune warrior. I love that one. It seems like both of your lives are filled with really a pursuit for health and finding solutions to improve the quality of life for yourselves and for others. And diet and exercise are just an example of the solutions you found. Together, you have co-founded Wellness Warriors Life and the Empower Her project. And you have self-published a book, The Gluten Free SUNY, which we're going to hear more about.
It is the best, JJ. I totally have it.
But I want to tell you that when I was reading your bios, what I love is the beginning. Becky says, I am a wife, a mother to 2 beautifully spunky girls and an adorable doggie. And Logan says, I'm a husband, a father to 2 wild and wonderful girls, and my best bud, Augie the doggy. And it sounds like you guys are both on the same page when it comes to priorities. I love that. So we are ready. Let's talk.
Great.
Let's do it.
Tell us about it.
What do you want to know?
Oh.
Well, tell us a little bit about your kind of caregiving journey, because, you know, you guys are super unique, because I know, Becky, you have been like super uber caregiver because you had the unfortunate task. And honestly, this is the reluctant side in the sense of like, holy cow, like nobody says, gosh, I think I'll put on my bucket list after running a marathon, I want to be a caregiver too. And so I know, Logan, you've had your own health issues, and then your youngest had health issues. And so I think, and then of course, Logan, you're ill and trying to be a caregiver to your youngest. Oh, and don't forget your older daughter who like, oh, she's fine. And you're like, she's resilient. Let's make sure she's okay. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about your journey, what happened, and we'll run from there.
Sure.
So,
go for it. And our dog is joining.
I see Augie. I see Augie is precious. I'm so sorry for the audio people, because Augie is right up here.
He just can, he's like, the space is this big and he's
okay
in it. So I think really a big part of our journey started even before Logan got sick. My dad was in an ICU, and so we're based in Richmond, Virginia, and he was in an ICU in the Cleveland Clinic for over 9 months. He had open heart surgery and a liver transplant all at the same time. And it was really challenging because we were the ones that worked in the medical field with the medical knowledge, and my mom and my sister were the ones that lived right there, but they just didn't have that everyday medical knowledge that most people don't have. You know, it's not to say they didn't try, they most definitely did, you know, but the challenge was us being so far away. And then with my dad not being able to communicate. He had a trach, and so he had a trach and he wasn't able to talk, and he would call sometimes because he needed something and he couldn't find his call bell, and he knew that we would somehow get him the help even though he couldn't talk to us. And so, that started way before our own issues with the traveling back and forth.
So Becky would be up there for a week or so at a time. I've got the kids so that she can go and, be with her dad, right? Who's going to say no to just spend the time that you can with them and help out as much as possible. So,
wow.
And I think we had 2 phone calls saying, this is the end, hurry, you have to get here right away. One was on anniversary, and
wow.
I was cursing, like, how could you do this? But he was like a cat and had 9 lives. But, because that was September, and he didn't pass till the middle of April.
Wow.
But still, just the getting up and the going up there for an 8-hour drive, knowing, like, driving for 8 hours with just this.
And the thing was, I had traveled to Maine for work. So I get a phone call in the middle of the night at a hotel. I didn't pick up my phone. So she called the front desk. They called me, woke me up.
Life 360 is great.
Yeah.
If you really don't know where your path is.
Mental note, Life 360.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes, because I'm calling. I'm like, I know my husband is in your hotel. And I need him like right now.
Luckily, I'd been up there enough that people at the front desk knew me. So they were like, okay, yeah. So they called and woke me up, and she's like, you've got to get here because we've got to go see my dad. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, they have given them,
until we get
there. And I was like, all right, 3 a.m, the airport's not open, trying to figure out how to get a flight, if I can get to the airport, because we were about an hour away from the airport. I was like, where are we going to meet her? So trying to get all this stuff straight, she ended up driving to DC, picking me up because I had to get a flight to DC because the flight I was supposed to get to Richmond got canceled. Then
it just
picked me up DC, got to Ohio, and then all of a sudden he was fine.
Just walking it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
So, that was not a really hard 9 months of trying to be a caregiver 500 miles away, and still care for ourselves and our daughters. And then, unfortunately, he passed in April, at the middle of April. And, it took months to really just kind of get over that. A lot of, we should have this, we should have that. And just really trying to move past, knowing that he was where he needed to be he was in a better place. And, then Logan decides that he wants to get sick.
So I was traveling again for work. I
Good job,
wasn't.
Logan.
I feel like you shouldn't maybe
I was
work.
traveling for a while, right? Trying to provide for the family.
Yeah.
And we come home, go into a Christmas event with some friends of ours.
We had taken the girls to ride the Polar Express down in North Carolina.
And I wasn't feeling good. I just up all night, wasn't sleeping.
He didn't do the drive, and for him to not be the one driving and to say, I need you to drive, Becky, like, that's a huge sign of him not feeling well.
Yeah. And I was in pain. I was all over, and I hadn't told her at the time really everything that was going on because I was still trying to figure it out myself. And finally I was like, look, I'm in lots of pain. I'm miserable. I'm having, like, I'm in and out of the bathroom a lot, not to get too personal, but
over 20 times a day.
Over about 20
Thanks,
times.
Becky.
Thanks, Becky. We appreciate that overshare.
Not that we're counting, but
no one's counting.
We're counting.
Oh yeah. I lost like 20 pounds in a week. Like, it was, I was in and out of the doctor, had been to the ER, so dehydrated. I couldn't really, I just wasn't keeping anything in my system.
And he jokes that he can't get sick without one of the girls getting sick. And literally, we're being discharged from the ER, and the school is calling that one of our children has fallen on the plane.
I don't even remember at this point.
And it's like, all right, well, you get in the car. We got to go pick her up now. So, you know, it just was a lot of, I was angry like at my dad. Like, how could you let this happen? Like, really? Like, why would you allow Logan to get sick and we don't even know what's going on? Like, you just passed. Like, why aren't you up there looking over us and protecting us? And so I was having a lot of anger, and we still didn't really know.
And so just to get even give you a time frame. So at the beginning, it was like December 6th was the day, I still remember, that I really started feeling horrible because we had gone on this trip.
Well, 3 years ago today.
There you go, 3 years ago today. Pretty interesting. But I was not eating everything, but then right about, I think it was the 20th, we went and finally got to see a GI doctor, because after being to all the, going to all the doctors, they're like, you got to go to see a GI. And they're asking me, have you had Crohn's? Is anybody in your family? Asking me all this stuff. And I was like,
under a lot of stress.
I was like, not really, because I, for the most part,
It's not a stressful type person.
Yeah. So I was like, well, they're like, oh, well, it has to be stress. I'm like, but it's not. So they said, well, we can do endoscopy. And so I did a colonoscopy and endoscopy, but it was the 26th of December and went in. And I'm just feeling horrible. I can hardly get the IV in to even do the procedure. And I guess after the procedure,
they called me back.
I was still asleep
To talk to me, and the blood pressure and the heart rate machine's right there, and his blood pressure is horrible. It was like 70/40, and working in the medical field. I'm like, is that Logan's blood pressure? Yes, ma'am, it is. I said, I'm not taking him home like that. I have 2 kids at home, and that's not normal.
Yeah.
So they had to pump him full of fluids. But even before that, it was the first Christmas without my dad, and here it is Christmas Eve, and he's curled up in a ball on the bed, and I'm sorry, I'm making sure it's the little people's ears. I'm upstairs on our 3rd floor crying because I'm doing people that come down the chimney.
Anna.
Thank you. I'm doing this all by myself, which normally we always do that together.
Wow.
The first one without my dad, like I just, and we had.
I had no idea.
He had no idea he was out. Like, so I wasn't mad at him because I knew he just physically could not help me. I mean, he would literally be curled up in a ball, unable to help with meals or dishes or literally anything. And like, it wasn't one of those times where your husband's curled up in a ball on the couch and you're like, dude, come on, come help me. Like, he literally couldn't. And like, I'll never forget that Christmas. 2019.
No, I won't forget it either. Well, what I remember of it.
Well, and that's the thing. He doesn't remember. He woke up Christmas morning and pulled himself together for 2 hours for the girls.
Wow.
And for 2 magical hours, but remembers nothing of it. And we had some families say, well, why didn't you call us? Like, we would have come over and helped you. But, I think part of it was not knowing.
Had no idea.
I didn't know that was going to happen. And then, he just, we didn't really know.
Yeah. And I got my medicine, the day after 27th, started, going down the whole rabbit hole of ulcerative colitis, celiacs, what is autoimmune disease. Like, oh my gosh, I can't eat anything. You find stuff on the internet, and
he went through the anger stage.
Yeah, you went.
You were angry.
Oh yeah, I was, because I was frustrated. Right, you look up one thing, they say you can eat it. The next thing you can't. Then you find out that your disease is very specific to the person. So good luck. Yeah. And you can run the gauntlet of all the foods. Go ahead, since you're barely eating anything, you can have an elimination diet and just try eating things and see if it makes you sick or not.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds awful.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
It pretty much was.
And so we were like, okay. And they're like, yeah. And by the way, this is a disease that you will always be on medication. You can't cure it with just nutrition alone.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, well, what? I mean, you're just going through this up and down of, one day of feeling good, one day of not. They have me on steroids.
Which makes him crazy.
It makes me cranky. You know, I don't know if anybody else has been on steroids.
Just makes me hungry, Logan. So
yeah, I kind of gain weight from steroids.
yeah, no, it's bad.
Yeah.
Makes him mean.
Oh, okay.
Mean for me.
Mean for you. It makes you mean. And
because like most people don't even know. They're just like, oh, well, you hide it well. I was like, well,
can hide it.
Except from Becky.
Right. Who is trying to take care of him and get him what he needs. We had 2 young girls at the time. They were 6 and 9. Can't do math.
6 and 8.
I love that they look each other, Emily, and they're like, I don't know how old our kids were. That's
6
okay.
and 8.
6 and 8.
They're give or take.
You know, and
So,
Kinsey, the older one, was doing soccer training downtown, which isn't in the best of places. And at this time of the year, it's dark, and that's not a task I would normally do. He would do that because of where it is and it being dark and late at night.
so I couldn't leave the house longer than like 2 hours, an hour.
30 minutes at that time.
Because everything just, it wasn't controlled. And it was, if I wasn't going to the bathroom, I was in pain. And then I had all range of everything going on in my body.
So how long did that actually last until you were kind of able to get some kind of resolve around it?
8 months.
Wow. So you all did that for 8 months.
And then after that, I went back into another flare because of medication change.
Of course.
And then it's taken me probably, so at this point, we'll go back to the other, but at this point, it's taken me 3 years to get into remission.
Wow. That's a lot of pain and a lot of, on both of you all. I mean, I would think that would be exceptionally hard because it also impacts your life because it impacts your comfort level of being able to go anywhere.
We didn't.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, we haven't gone.
The pandemic was wonderful.
That is terribly convenient.
Yes.
Thank you, pandemic. Silver lining. It's important to remember the silver lining.
Oh, the pandemic for us was actually a blessing.
Yeah, because which is great segue. So right about the time, it was like the last week of January. So I was diagnosed in December. Last week of January, I'd had about a month to really try to heal up a little bit and get somewhat comfortable. And that's when Lexi started getting really distant, started pulling away from friends at school.
This is the baby, right?
This is the baby.
And it was hard to tell, right? Because my dad had passed away. Logan got really sick. She's very advanced for her age. So she was very bored at school. I hate to use that word, but she was.
Becky was working weekends at this time, all weekend long.
Was still working. Yeah.
I would work.
Okay. So Becky, you're working and taking care of the girls. Logan's sick.
Which I'm still working and I'm sick. And then when she works on the weekends, I have the kids.
And you're still going to soccer practice downtown in the dark. Did I get that part as well?
Yeah, trying to make it work.
My 30 minutes to myself was when Kinsey was doing soccer training.
Wow.
That is a good use of time right there, Becky.
That was my 30 minutes.
Let me ask you this. What did you do in those 30 minutes?
He probably doesn't know this. But I either called one of his best friends or his cousin, who is like a brother to him, and cried to them.
Oh, I will tell you, Becky, when there were some of my hardest days and Jason was in the middle of treatment, I would call Emily and I would sit outside of the hospital and I would cry on the phone. And she would be like, it's going to be okay. And so Sometimes those tears are super therapeutic.
Yeah, they were.
So
I would hide in a corner.
yeah, I get the hide in a corner. We've all hidden in a corner at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you survived soccer and in the questionable part of Richmond. And
weekend work. Yeah.
Yeah. Weekend work. So you're working. Let me ask you this, because this is a little work piece, because we'll get back to it. Did everybody know about all the stuff going on? Like, how comfortable did you feel telling your boss?
My boss was fantastic.
She was very empathetic always with everything going on. So she was really cool.
She was really, and when my boss was fantastic, when my dad was really sick, when Logan got sick, and then when our daughter got sick, she was fantastic. So were my coworkers, because sometimes I was supposed to be at work an hour ago, still not there yet, and would have to call in. So
wow.
I had a great boss and team that I worked with. They were all very supportive, very understanding, very
well, and with Becky working PRN and had been PRN for years.
I'd been there, and
it really helped. But then so that was a double-edged sword, right? If she didn't work, she didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And if she did work, there was, I was trying to manage everything, on my side. So we had that give and take. And then I had a pretty good boss and was, okay with me, but I was working remote and still trying to manage day-to-day operations while all of it. So it was just I think it was just this tumultuous time that just it was, honestly, we just kind of had to keep going. The song, country song where it says, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we did.
Wow.
And then hell got worse.
Yeah. And then that's when stuff with Lexi happened.
Right.
So what happened there? You said she just started pulling back, or?
So we noticed these changes.
She's in here.
She's in here, of course. We were just noticing a bunch of changes in her that just weren't her. Right. And, like they played futsal, which is a type of indoor soccer. And, every time they'd score a goal, we'd give them $1. And she scored a goal and we're like, oh, Lexi, you get $1. I don't want $1. Okay. Well, I'll take it.
Inflation's pretty bad. So
right.
Whatever.
So there were just a lot of different signs that something was going on. And so I had called and talked to the school and the school counselor, and the counselor said, I'll go in and watch her in the classroom. And she called and talked to me for probably 45 minutes to an hour, saying that she did agree that she definitely has pulled away from the class. She's not interactive. She looks just kind of very angry, and asked if she had strep throat. And I'm like, no, because if she didn't, when I sent her to school, she doesn't have a fever. Her throat's not sore. She's not complaining of a bellyache. Like, no. So she's telling me all about what's called PANS or PANDAS, which is pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with strep or not strep. Telling us all about it and suggesting that we go take her to the pediatrician and have her tested for strep.
And she's already having trouble with her teacher already. So we were a little frustrated. I was all hopped up on Mountain Dew, with steroids and everything. So I'm sitting here like, well, this is a bunch of crap, like, what is PANDAS? I've never heard of that before.
So thankfully, our pediatrician, he'd seen her since birth. He's wonderful. And I had literally just had her in there like a month earlier for her well visit. And he was talking about how he was going to go home and she was going to be dinner conversation because, when they go in for a well visit, there's like the checklist when they're so young, like, yes or no, do they do these things? Yeah. Well, he comes in and she's reading the questions and answering them and answering her own answers. And he's like, well, that's advanced. Yeah. But then when I took her back to be tested for PANDAS, she's playing peekaboo with him and can't write her name.
Oh,
Wow.
So just
Yeah.
this drastic change. And so he thankfully sees it, right? Like he acknowledges that, yes, there is this change. He knows it's not parenting because
Yeah.
he'd known us for
Yeah.
8 years. So he sent us to have blood work done because that's really one of the main things they need is they need to do blood work to basically look at all these inflammation factors going on in the body. And so they send us with this 6-year-old dehydrated child because she won't eat or drink anything.
But she's mentally has reverted back to almost like a 2-year-old. So
wow.
trouble controlling her bowels. She couldn't formulate words sometimes. She forgot how to tie her shoes. This
Wow.
girl that was very articulate and advanced went backwards and couldn't, like she could hardly do much of anything.
Except she was telling us that my dad was there with her holding her hand.
Okay, that is
Oh
the
my
scariest
gosh.
thing ever because we've all seen movies and you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's seeing dead people.
I picked her up from school and she says, Mama, I saw, they called my dad Poppy. And I said, she's like, Mama, I saw Poppy today. I'm like, you did? She's like, yeah, he was holding my hand and he was telling me everything was going to be all right. Don't worry about it, Lexia. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm in the back of the car with her and he's driving, looking at me in the mirror. And I'm like, oh my God, now she's seeing dead people. But I tried to find comfort in that, right?
Yeah.
That
Going to the positive side of that instead of the really super scary side.
Yes,
Actually really cool.
we took it as a positive that, you know what, Lex, you're right. Everything is going to be okay. And Poppy knows that because Poppy's going to be with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
And honestly, he was. I mean, she really did talk about him a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout everything. And yeah, we got sent. So the doctor sent us to get blood taken and they had
eight vials. 8.
Mm.
Wow. Oh.
And that's hard when you're
I mean,
little.
they were the big
peed
ones too. Yeah.
From holding her and the screams and girls, Lexi and Kinsey.
I love redirection right in the middle. I support that. I redirect other people's children and Jason yells at me.
Honestly, it's more the dog that keeps coming into the room.
So it's Augie. Augie
They'll come in and then he'll follow them out. They'll close the door. And then he's like, well, I didn't really want to be out here with you guys. And so he comes back in.
Yeah, you're going to have to cut this out of the video. Sorry.
Oh, this is totally staying. Totally staying.
We
Authentic
actually,
moment.
we're actually waiting for Emily to redirect Mom if she walks in there. So we're good. So we have a plan for that as well.
Yeah. At any moment, our mom could fly by.
I mean, is she going to be naked?
No.
No, hopefully not.
No. I like how we all scream no at the same time. No. Okay.
So
back on track.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
the
giving
blood
up
work,
all the blood.
we had to give like every ounce of blood. And she's, of course we bribe her with ice cream, of which she doesn't care about. And it came back that she was positive for strep throat, 0 signs. It came back saying that she had walking pneumonia within the past
0
couple
signs.
weeks, 0 signs.
Nothing.
And
Nothing like no snot, no fever, no sore throat. Nothing. And that's the weirdest thing is, so we found out she's a carrier of strep, so she has no symptoms ever.
Wow.
And then we don't even even the doctor's like, I don't even know why pneumonia is even showing up because I just saw her a few weeks back.
So it's all shows positive for having the pandas and the pans.
Yeah.
So the way that they then treat it is.
Can you explain it?
You go ahead.
So pandas is basically where.
Sure. Good point. We should explain.
Yeah, we should probably explain it, right? So with children, they have, before they hit puberty, they have perforations in the lining to their brain. And with strep, what strep does is the reason why it's also so people get it so easily is because it disguises itself as a normal cell. So in this case, the strep throat has gone through the lining of the brain. It has disguised itself as a brain cell, and now her body's attacking her brain. And that's what
Wow.
caused all the regression. That's where her body is just freaking out. It's changed her temperament. I mean, it completely altered her brain. And they've actually taken brain scans of children during this, and the gray matter in the front shows up like Parkinson's. So it has a lot of the same look and feel as Parkinson's for a child that is,
Otherwise normal.
Otherwise normal, and is sitting at 6 years old and now, completely different than the way they were before.
And you're saying that happened in like a 30-day period, like at day one, she was with the doctor, great review. And then 30 days later, you're practically back in and she's not writing her name, basically.
There was her mom came.
My mom had just been here and she was fine.
And everything was fine. And then literally it was like within a week, went from our normal Lexi to honestly this other
someone
child.
Else.
Yeah.
So how long did it take to get resolution once you were able to identify what the problem was?
Well, it gets worse before it gets better.
That's bad.
Yeah.
So they go into what's called a flare. So she had entered a flare, and to treat the flare, they put them on a steroid,
antibiotic,
and a bunch of supplements. But the steroid in children makes them, for a lack of a better word, crazy. Literally amps them up. And it was like 5 days of
wild and crazy
hell. I mean, literally just she would not get dressed.
Well, everything felt horrible to her. So like, even as she tried to get dressed,
like the sensory
wow.
She had a lot of sound OCD tendencies that she's never had.
She wouldn't eat she really wouldn't eat anything. She would only drink this one chocolate protein shake, which we're like, whatever, it's protein milk, like whatever. Wouldn't brush her teeth. But and did get cavities from it, but the dentist would, thankfully is a really good pediatric dentist and actually knew about pandas and said, well, it was a lesser of two evils. Like, you were trying to feed her or brush her teeth. Like so he's like, I get it. Like, but even filling the cavities was a huge ordeal for her. Just sound,
so there was the thing that made it really hard is, so for Becky and I, we've always been pretty good at communicating with each other. I'm sure we could always, anybody can always communicate better.
Well, Jason and I are like total perfect.
Oh yeah, right.
Absolutely.
I mean, A-team over there.
Right? Nailing it.
But Lexi wouldn't allow Becky, because she would hear things and see things that weren't there. She wouldn't allow Becky to have a phone. And sometimes Kinsey and I weren't allowed in the room.
They weren't allowed on the same floor of the house.
Sometimes. So Becky and I have to function with Kinsey. So I could barely leave the house. A few times I left the house, I'm taking Kinsey to the store or up to school so she can have a normal life and not
also getting Kinsey out, because there were times she didn't need to see Lexi. Like, Lexi was having some episodes that were scary. And we didn't want Kinsey to see it. So Logan would take her shopping. And
what girl doesn't like retail therapy?
Yeah.
I mean, right?
You're the best dad. The fact that, number one, the fact that you're a girl dad.
Right.
That's so appropriate. That's God's sense of humor with you. And the fact that you take her to the mall, that's super cute, because she's a tween. And that makes it feel good. But I think it sounds like you guys had to split parenting. Like, it was like divide and conquer, because it sounds like, Lexi was just, medically a hot mess, and she
Yeah.
needed, like, latched on to you, Becky, which really kind of is a testament to attachment, like the mama bear. I mean, I know that she's probably attached to both you guys, but rubber hits the road.
Definitely.
Babies typically want the mama bear. But the fact that you guys were able to divide and conquer, how did Kinsey respond in general? Because I mean, there had to be some level of kind of, not that she, went rogue and went bad to get attention or anything, but what was her response?
Well, I think she was fine. Honestly, to this day, she doesn't remember a lot.
She doesn't remember a lot.
That's interesting.
And some of it maybe, PTSD or whatever. We've had her.
We actually had her in therapy for PTSD.
Talk to a therapist.
Wow.
But I mean, she seems fine, and for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And now she asks more questions, and it's more real and trying to understand. But at that point in time, she saw it as, I tried to make it fun. I was like, hey, why don't you and Daddy just have a daddy-daughter date, and we'll go to the mall and just walk around and see what we can find. And she's like, she was younger, and we hadn't been to too many malls at that point in time. So she's like, oh, great. So
well, and I think
sure,
it is fun as possible.
But I do think there were hard times, because there would be times she would want me, and she could, she just couldn't. That it just wasn't possible. She couldn't have me. And because Panda's kids, they do the one thing they say is they latch on to one parent, and that parent and that parent only. And there were so many times Logan couldn't even look at Lexi, and Lexi would get mad.
Wow.
I mean, and she reverted back to a baby, essentially, at times, and Lexi and I moved into the guest room together, and Kinsey essentially moved into my spot in the bed.
I basically, Becky and I had 5 minutes together. That was about it one day. And I said, look, we'll be fine. We'll get through it. We just gotta, best we can, leave notes, figure out a way to communicate and get through. I mean, I was like, it's going to be okay. We just got to keep going.
There was a day we were actually completely, Lexi was,
I know where you're going,
naked and upstairs all by herself. She did not want anybody up there. And
the doctor told us, they're like, hey, the steroid's going to ramp them up. Just have to keep them safe.
Yeah.
He's like, you're no longer parenting to do anything. They can't, the kid won't remember any of this stuff most of the time. Your number one goal is keep them safe. So we said, okay.
So she's upstairs, and you can hear do 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 do. We're downstairs. We had decided at this point, from all our research, we were going gluten free. And to go completely gluten free, you have to get rid of everything: pots, pans, dishes, utensils, toaster. So we were getting rid. His parents were here helping us. We were getting rid of everything and putting in new. And you could hear do 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 do, and then you'd hear her throw something down the stairs, and she'd be like, "Daddy, get this bag now and take it outside."
Did you say she was 6?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's nailing it. Okay, keep going.
They're 13 bags?
There were 13 bags.
Trash bags.
Trash bags, big leaf trash bags full of clothes, full of towels.
She was totally emptying out the hall linen closet. Now, mind you, Logan is flipping out. He's like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? Oh my God. And I said, Logan, the funny thing is, sweetie, you don't even know what's in the closet.
Well, turns out she goes in my room and takes half of all of my underwear and clothes and puts them in bags and throws them down the steps.
Or hides them.
And hides them.
Because we couldn't find them. For months later, she found them. But so she wanted us to just get rid of all these bags. And I said, Logan, we're just going to hide it in the garage, and we're going to slowly bring it back in the house. Well, I don't know, it was probably a couple weeks later. She's like, Mama, where's my BB-8 towel? I can't find my Star Wars towel. And I was like, I have some bags of towels out in the garage. You want to go look in there? Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
here.
She had no recollection of it.
And so let me ask you this, because this is the thing. I think as a caregiver, like I'm going to say caregiver, but reality is I hate the word caregiver because I don't think any of us relate to it. Like you're doing so many things. Because Logan, I'm assuming you're not feeling the best during this time, that you're also like your illness is so secondary to your child being throwing your underwear down the stairs.
Everything of mine on the back burner.
Yeah. I mean, that's sacrifice right there. But I can imagine just the fact that you didn't lose it. Did you ever just feel like you're going to lose it, or you need to privately lose it?
I did.
Logan is pointing. People, you can't see, he's pointing.
I will say, let me, I don't mean this negative in any way.
No, not at all.
Becky had to deal with so much stuff. I dealt with my stuff, but she obviously had more. But there was a couple times that she was like, just make sure she's safe. I just need a minute. And I'm like, okay. But I'd literally have to like watch from the doorway because I wasn't allowed in the room.
Right.
For me, like I'm trying not to get my feelings hurt as a dad because my kid doesn't want anything to do with me. But yet she's like, I just need a minute. And I can totally get it because Lexi,
she's very aggressive.
Like she would, and in person, like normally Lexi's the complete opposite. But
she'd be really sad if she knew she said and did the things that she did.
And
wow.
So Becky was like, I just need a minute, a number of times, and I totally get it. So I'd literally, I'm like playing guard here. I'm man-to-man defense, trying to make sure everything's okay, just so Becky could have just a minute to go to the bathroom because Lexi wouldn't even let her go to the bathroom by herself.
Wow. I can't even imagine that. Because I think, this is not parenting at this point.
Mm-mm.
This is truly goes into a different realm of like, it is. I'd say that you're right. You're trying to access the front of the brain, the reasoning part. They're like, okay, I'm going to reason with this. And I think that it would be really hard to not have your emotions all over the place because you've got all these like fear and some rejection in there. And why doesn't she want me? And thank God she doesn't want me. I don't know if you were allowed to say that out loud. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if I were you, Logan, I'd have been like raising my hand, being like, please don't like me. Because this child is naked and crazy right now. And here, Becky, you take it for the home team.
Go right ahead, Becky.
Her nickname's Naked Baby because she didn't close.
That's going to be a takeaway, Naked Baby.
But we, exactly. I'm gonna call that when she gets older too.
Yeah.
But we do have one funny story of the craziness that was going on. It was the last day of the double dose of steroid.
Uh-huh.
And
the girls they were sharing a room.
The girls were sharing a room, which worried us a little bit because they wanted to.
They had shared a room up until this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Lexi comes, I mean, you could hear her stomping, like fast stomping down the hall, flings open the door, and she goes over to Becky's side of the room where we had some clothes folded in the bins before putting them away down the hall and in her room. So Lexi's like, and grunting and just throwing clothes everywhere all over the room. And we're like, Lexi, what's going on? And if you could say a expletive bad word, she said it without saying it because she told Becky, she goes, what do you say? She goes,
tell him to
she goes, go back to sleep now. And I'm sitting there laughing, and Becky's like, go get the Benadryl, because they say when they're in a flare and they're flaring up, get Benadryl and it'll calm them down. So she's like,
so it's not a CPS complaint.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not so good. So, but the doctors actually told us to do it, right?
The breakthrough. The Benadryl is the breakthrough.
Check. Thank you, Benadryl. Adding them.
Doctor approved.
Yeah.
And she was like, tell him to get back and go to sleep. Get back into bed. So I'm walking downstairs, and I can hear her just yelling at Becky, and I'm trying not to laugh because it's so hilarious. And so Becky's just like,
we walk back down the hall. She crawls back in her bed. Augie follows her, and she turns around and she yells at Augie, go back to your room.
And all of a sudden, I'm still down the hall, and I see the dog sprinting into the room to his bed.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Poor Augie.
Or, I feel a little bad for Augie. I agree. I think Augie is probably resilient.
Yes.
And
Augie went through a lot too. Yeah.
so let me ask you, because I think so how long, so is she better, or is she still basically a naked baby running around throwing your underwear down the stairs?
Oh yeah. No. So we had to get a 504 for school so that she didn't have to worry about the absences and stuff. She finished with an A. The work was easy for her.
Wow.
Even in her flare, which we're still not sure how she managed, but she did. And so I would think throughout that,
Say it took us probably at least 6 months until
Wow.
because you really feel like it's like somebody flips a light switch and you lose your child.
yeah, and then you go
And
on this roller coaster up and down, gradually uphill.
Yeah, and I would
Mhm.
say it was 6 months until I feel like the light switch got flipped back on.
Supposedly, and we've met some other children that are past it, but when she gets through puberty, or right about in the middle of puberty at some point in time, we can stop with the medication regimen, and all those perforations, those holes will close up.
Wow.
And then she should be okay. The goal is to minimize the amount of flares so there's limited damage or long-term effects.
Right.
And if you can get like a year to 2 years between each flare, doctors are super happy.
She takes an antibiotic every day
And supplements.
and supplement, like vitamin supplements. And I would say she's flared twice since then, but we are so anal about noticing, like
Hyper vigilant.
That's a much better word. We're very hyper vigilant on noticing different things with her and get it treated like that.
And it's a puzzle. So every time she was into a flare, most of the symptoms are different. And it's putting those individual pieces together every single time to say, okay, yes, she's she's starting in a flare.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's a lot of anxiety that they deal with. They have a lot of anxiety, a lot of anger and frustration. And the doctor wanted us to get her in therapy. Now it's during COVID. So again, that's why COVID was a blessing for us, because she could do school from home. We didn't have to worry about leaving home because she didn't want to leave home. So COVID for us was perfect. But we did have to the doctor wanted her to do therapy, which was great. And because
taught her a lot of skills.
It taught her skills of how to maybe deal with different thoughts in her head, skills to help when she gets anxious or upset. Great for us. I think half the session was also for us because we needed help as well. But we did have Kinsey see a therapist as well, because she had PTSD. She really did. I'll never forget. There was a day before COVID hit where he was already working from home, but his boss at the time wanted him to go into the office this random day, and he had not been in the office for months. And the girls were dressed and ready to go to school. Lexi was on board. Yes, I'm going to school. And Kinsey just starts flipping out that somebody's going to kill daddy when he goes to work. Somebody's going to shoot him in the back. Somebody, Kinsey, they have to badge in. It doesn't matter. Mama, somebody is going to get daddy. And just
super secure environment. Nothing. Plus a bunch of IT nerds. So, I mean, it wasn't going to happen.
But her fear was, if something happened to daddy and Lexi went into a flare again and needed you, who would there be for me?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's so real. That's so real.
So nobody went to school that day. They stayed
I still
home
had to go to work though.
until daddy got home from work.
Everybody huddled in, and that's sometimes that's the best thing that you can do, is we're just going to huddle in and we're going to kind of get everybody's little baby nervous systems okay. And because safety is really, really important. So I have a couple of lightning round kind of questions I want to ask you.
Go for
And
it.
so I'm thinking, girls,
I love
like
lightning rounds.
I'm looking at our questions, and I feel like Naked Baby met the "you can't make this up" story. Because I always want, because I'm going to tell you, there's a time that I'm going to talk about this in another podcast. The time that my mom got sick in the Walmart in North Carolina, and I had to crawl underneath the stall, and I'm not a small woman, and it's a short distance between the floor, which was the nastiest floor and of any Walmart in the universe. And so I'll tell about that later, but that was a terrible. So you can't make that up, because I called JJ after I did that and said, I can't believe you did that and left me. But caregiving is hard. So what is one or two things that you wish you had known?
Well, I mean, it's hard because there's multiple parts here.
That's okay. Any part that you want. What do you wish you had known?
For me, I think there's two things. One, for my disease, it would have been nice to be able to speak to someone that had been through it, to truly be able to say, it's going to be okay. Say, hey, you can get into remission. It's manageable. You read all the horror stories and stuff, but really, if you do the right things, such as diet, exercise, and try to keep it a little bit controlled, you can be fine, because you hear all the horror stories. And then I would say with Lexi, I don't even know how to even really where to go, but it was probably the scariest experience in my life, being able to see your kid, just watch them literally bodily functions wasting away, not functioning anymore, potentially having to do a hospital stint. I think at that point in time, hindsight's 2020. If I could see myself and see where she is now, and to see how great she's doing and how everything just worked out and it's manageable, I think it would be for that as well, because that brought me to, and I think you too, but I've lost family members, friends. I have had things that are out of my control, but that was probably the scariest moment or time frame in my life, because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was so new there. I mean, honestly, until about 10 years ago, it wasn't even a diagnosis. So there's very little information out there. So I think
you can go down some really bad rabbit holes if you Google about it.
Google is your friend, but sorry, Google.
I had to tell Becky, as I had to take her phone and say, no, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah. We've taken our mom's phone before, but that was for different reasons. So go ahead, Jake.
Well, I feel like we have to have them, at some point come back, because I do want to touch base. I know we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah,
but I want to have, we have to come back and talk about all the work that they've done, why food and exercise and all those things have been such an impact, because I need to know that personally, Natalie. So we have to have Becky and
now we have to come back. Sorry.
So
no, we're going to do part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. So we're going to have to do part 2. So whether Natalie invites you or not, Becky and Logan, we don't even have to have her participate. You can just come back and see me.
Really ugly. That's so unchristian.
Emily does a little plant-based. She loves plant-based diets. So she is, and she says it makes her feel fantastic. And I'm always looking for more information. So we're going to have Becky and Logan back on so they can get me on track, because everything I've read about, in your bio, which I thought was amazing, talked about trying to get people making healthy habits, which was something, and letting people choose that, because I know that's helped you a lot, Logan. That was kind of the next step with you guys, and I think that's been a really important part. I guess for one of the questions I have, kind of a kind of a closing sort of thing that we could ask you guys is advice for any listeners going forward. One of those things that you could share with us that kind of has gotten you from where you were to today, because you guys have self-published this cookbook, which we still want you to, when we're done, we're going to tell people where to get it for sure, because Natalie loves it. But advice to listeners of, what got you to where you are now? What's helped you the most?
I mean, so I would say, I think a couple things, at least for me personally, I allowed myself to be vulnerable and accept help, which is, anybody who knows me is not me at all, like 100%. And I mean, even when the girls were babies and when they were born, like, I don't need anybody, I got this. So for me, it was allowing people to help. And it wasn't, I don't want to say it was admitting I couldn't do it, but just allowing people to help.
Yeah.
And then also just, Logan and I mean, I don't want to toot our own horns, but I really believe we have a special relationship. Like he says he's not a mind reader, but he really is.
There you go, Logan.
I mean, he really is. And I think for me, my father-in-law, Logan's dad, is a man of very few words. I mean, very few words. And when he came to the hospital, when the girls were born, he shook my hand and told me, good job.
He's awkward. We love him.
He's just awkward, but love him. But I'll never forget, like he told me that he doesn't know another couple that would not have broken them.
Wow.
That, he's like, that would have broken any other couple I know, but it didn't break you two. And
wow.
And honestly, like the four of us, when Augie.
And Augie.
So the five of us, I mean, we're really close. Like, we went through a really horrific time, but I think because of it, the five of us are even closer and have a really special bond. And, and Logan and I had been through some hard times before, with communicating and, he's a great eye reader and mind reader and, communicating.
She never wears her feelings on her face ever.
Never. Women never do that. I never do it either.
No. And he was willing to do anything. And I don't know many men or dads that would have, like
thank you.
I love that. I love you guys.
Like he really did. Like, yes, I was the one in the trenches, but he was the one literally coming and picking the two of us as a solid unit up off the floor and in a bed once she finally fell asleep.
Days. Yeah.
So
things you can't make up. Literally, Lexi would go underneath Becky's shirt and fall asleep.
The bed wasn't made because she'd torn the sheets off. So I'd send an SOS and he'd come in, make the bed, which he doesn't like to do, and then pick us both up and get us in the bed. So I don't remember the question anymore.
No, it's okay.
That is what you and our listeners, as far as just, what you would share. And I think that is just a beautiful story.
Well, it's relationship goals.
It is. It's all about that.
And I was going to say, we didn't let it define. I don't think a lot of people, it's so easy to play victim, and obviously Augie. It's so easy to, play victim, I guess, and let a disease or a challenge, take over. We didn't let it define us. And we were like, okay, there has to be some, we're going to fix it. Like, how do we fix it? And, the movie, The Martian, where he says, all right, think through the problem. Let's work the problem, It's basically how we lived our life for years. And now we're at a point where we can, it was a challenge and we had a few years of difficulty, but now we can enjoy life. And we know how to manage things and get through, and we know, what are negotiables and what aren't.
Mhm.
And I think it really helped us, together realize, yeah, we don't sweat the small stuff anymore.
Yep, that is exactly right.
Don't sweat the small stuff. I feel like that's a fantastic takeaway.
That's actually, we pretty much, since we've been married, have been living by that. And
I love it.
that's been our goal, is to, I dropped the bowl and it broke. Sorry. Yeah, it's okay. We can get another one.
Exactly. That's okay.
So tell us where to find you guys on social media, because I know you're out there, and then also about the book, which you're coming back to.
Where can we find that?
Yes.
The book.
Look at the book. And
okay.
So we wrote, well, I mean, Logan is our chef. I won't lie. He cooks, but
I like to eat.
Good job, Logan.
With 2 autoimmune diseases and then my own, but we wanted it to not define us. We wanted to beat it. We wanted to overcome it and have our normal life again. And so going gluten free is not easy, and it can be very overwhelming. And
so we wanted to help people out, right? So
I love it.
We've already been through all this, and one of the reasons. So on social media, it's Becky Pickles Coaching on Facebook and Instagram, and we have our website at wellnesswarriorslife.com. And you can get the cookbook on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but it's a place for people to start. We have some stuff in there about how to deal with social situations. So when you go gluten free, or you don't drink, or something like that, it's not at home that's a challenge, because you can replace everything. It's when you go out with friends and you go to eat for the first time, or let's say a bunch of people are having a party, how do I, can I eat anything? Can I not? Do I bring stuff? Is, how to handle that. And I found that most people, if you say, hey, yeah, this is my life, my lifestyle, majority of people are really open into supporting it. They just, like, hey, how do I, right? They need to know how. So if you coach people along, really say, hey, these are things I can and can't do, or, hey, we can go to any restaurant because I can find something. Worst case, I have a salad. Oh, darn, I'm eating healthy. It's great. So we put a lot of that into this book. Plus there's a lot of family. There's a lot about us. We've been in some magazines and had the family, and they were like, oh, well, how real is it that the whole family's in here cooking? I was like, well, it's everyday.
That's our everyday.
And they're like, really? And so Lexi, our pandas girl over here, she picks up a knife and is cutting a tomato or making tomato feta dip, which is in the cookbook. And it's always a huge party hit. And she's like, wow, really? I'm like, yeah,
the girls love helping, and especially Lexi love helping Logan cook in the kitchen. And
every day.
I mean, every recipe in the cookbook they eat. They eat everything in there. So it's all
kid tested.
Kid tested,
parent approved. I love it. I love it.
And they've made it all. And then my mom has been a big help with everything, and she's basically redone a lot of the family desserts and a lot of the things that
I love dessert
that are like old family recipes, old Southern chocolate chess pie, things like that. And she's cut some sugar out of it and made it gluten free. And we've probably eaten
a lot,
15 different.
I've seen the book. And the recipes are not what you would expect. And all the extra content is super helpful. So I'm going to tell you, definitely sister approved. We're going to give it the sister approved stamp.
Absolutely.
Approval. So
absolutely. Well, great. Well, we want to definitely thank Becky and Logan for joining us. They are coming back because we are going to talk about more food and healthy habits, because they are living it and staying healthy. We want them all to stay healthy, especially Augie down there. Thank everybody for joining us today. We know that everybody is super busy, and it means the world to us to know that everybody is here.
So, and don't forget to join the Sisterhood membership. So you're going to go onto the website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com. And we know that resources are tight. We know that inflation is high. And so this is a fantastic way to get discounts. And the best part is it's free. Free, free, free. So whether you are a caregiver, have been a caregiver, or will be a caregiver, please know you're not alone and you are always a part of the sisterhood of care, and you got this. So we love you guys. Don't forget, we drop new episodes every Tuesday on the Whole Care Network and all your favorite places where you find your podcast. All right. See you then, guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.